I have this idea that in heaven there is this huge gallery, this huge portrait gallery. And in the portrait gallery are portraits of every person, every human being God has created. And he walks through that gallery and he looks at those paintings. And he either gets a smile on his face or a tear in his eye, because the paintings represent the way he knit that person together in their mother's womb. And the smile are for people who are living that life, and the tear are for people who aren't. Now, I know that's not theologically sound, and my pastor told me, I wrote about that in one of my books, my pastor told me that my hermeneutics were loose. I didn't even know I had hermeneutics. But the concept is there. And you think about it, and if you don't have a handout, we have some extra ones, but I gave some Bible verses. Psalm 139:13. You knit me together in my mother's womb. My mom's, does anybody knit? Anybody here knit? Mostly guys, so I might be surprised. California, occasionally we get some guys who knit. But my mom knits, and a couple of things I've seen, she touches every single thread. We've got a couple of Afghans that she's done. She has literally touched every thread has gone through her hands. And knitting is one of those crafts where you have to know where you're going to end when you start. You don't just start knitting and say, oh, I'll turn this into a bootie, or I'll turn this into a blanket. Whereas with painting and woodworking and all that stuff, you might have an idea of where you're going, but you really have to know when you're knitting. So if God knit you together in your mother's womb, this wasn't just you're not one of 100, you're not even one of 2. You're you. And God gave you talents and strengths, and he gave you desires. Desires, oh my goodness. Let's talk about desires. God says, again in his book, Psalm 34:7, he grants the desires of my heart. Ladies, gentlemen, desires are emotions. Those are wants. They are not needs. And if God says he grants them, they must be okay. It must be okay to desire things. It must be okay to have appetites. And appetites are emotion. Appetites are feeling. Even the most analytical engineer I know, and I know some very analytical computer engineers. I'm married to an accountant who is very analytical. And let me tell you something, engineers, accountants, those analytical people, you deliberative people who really have to think through things and get all the facts. Just give me the facts. If you go to a car dealer and he prices you the exact same car, exact same price, exact same features, and one's in red and one's in blue, you're going to pick the blue one because blue is your favorite color. That's an emotion. That is feeling. That is desire. And God says he grants the desires of your heart, your appetites. Jesus said, I've come that you might have abundant life. He says, I want to give them life. I want to give them life more abundantly. What's abundance? Abundance is having things beyond what you need. If you only have what you need, you don't have abundance, right? But if you have more than you need, that's abundance. And Jesus says, I want to give that to you. So you think about that stuff, and you think about that he made me the way I am. There's a song by a singer, Lady Gaga, that her new popular song is something about that's the way I was made, or that's the way, and it's kind of like the old Frank Sinatra song, let me do whatever I want. I did it my way. That's not what I'm saying. We got to do it God's way because he actually knit us together and put us together. But I know that when Paul says in Ephesians, I think it's Ephesians or Philippians, it's one of those two letters. He says, find out what pleases God and then do it. Okay? I know that when I am living the life that he painted into that portrait, it's just better for me. I feel better. I feel things just go smoother when I am when I am in His will. And the last example I'll give you before we get into kind of the meat of what I'm talking about, long intro today. The movie Chariots of the Gods, or Chariots of Fire. Eric Liddell, you know that story, right? He was the son of missionaries to China. And everybody just expected him to be a missionary in China. And he went to university, and he found out that when he ran, he felt great. And people criticized him, his sister especially. Why aren't you doing, this missionary thing like everybody expected? He says, God made me for a purpose, and when I run fast, I feel His pleasure. So that's what I get to do. I've got the best job in the world. I get paid money to go around and help people find out what it is that energizes them, what it is that makes them strong, and then help them look for ways to apply that to what it is they're paid to do. Here's the sad reality. The Gallup organization, through the 90s, the Gallup organization interviewed successful companies. A fellow named Don Clifton and Marcus Buckingham. Don spent 25 years of his life doing this. Marcus worked with him for 17 years. They interviewed 80,000 managers in 8,000 companies and 1 million employees. That's a lot of people. So they had this huge data file, and what they wanted to find out was what were the common threads between all these successful companies. Gallup measures people, and that's what they do. Gallup is a great measuring organization. All right, they measure political feelings and all sorts of other things. What they found out after gathering 100 million points of data from 1 million employees, 80,000 managers, 8,000 companies, was that the most productive teams, and teams are what? Bunches of individuals. It is all about you. Are bunches of individuals, whole bunch of individuals who come together. A corporation is a whole bunch of individuals who come together to get a job done. The most successful teams were those where the majority of people on the team could say, and I think I've actually put it down here, yes, under a sad reality, at work, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? Very specific question. At work, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? This strengths thing sounds great. Yeah, let's get everybody playing to their strengths, and everybody's going to feel good, and they're going to be energized, and they're not going to burn out and all that stuff. Here's the business reason. The same research that Gallup did showed them that teams who play to their strengths a majority of the time, that could answer that question. At work, you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day. 38% more likely to have high productivity, 44% more likely to have high customer satisfaction scores, and 50% more likely to have low employee turnover. Low employee turnover. God created you to be a certain way. He knit into you desires and strengths and talents that you can turn into strengths if you use them. And if you live to your strengths, the strengths that He knit into you, He will be pleased and you will feel His pleasure.
Thank you for watching this sample video. God has given me a heart for helping people discover and use the talents He knit into them. Let's talk about how I can come and encourage your group to maximize their strengths.